Okay, so here I am at the end of week one, absolutely knackered. Even though I've not done a lot. We've had lectures every day on various different topics from sort of the national curriculum, the basis of it, right up to information for the first assignment about thinking skills. The main thing I'm going to talk about now is the amount of reading I've got to do and the number of books I bought. I'm actually quite upset about this because with the amount I spent on books over this past week, I could have bought a Kindle, which I would much prefer. And much easier to carry around than this lot anyway. So I'm going to start off with some of the basic ones that I bought first. Um, the ones, the one here, um, is what the university have said we absolutely have to have. Learning to teach in the secondary school. That's an absolute must, but it does sound quite relevant, I've got to say. I also bought The Essential Guide to Secondary Teaching, because it looked a bit funky. And The Essential Guide to Lesson Planning, which will come in really useful on the school experience, I've no doubt. There's also the Teacher's Toolkit here, which has various different sort of strategies for learning and different things like that, and that'll be really useful for the first assignment as well. Then I've gone back to basics with my knowledge and bought a couple of revision guides of what I'm going to be teaching, because the last time I did Key Stage 3 Science was when I was in Key Stage 3 Science. So just for a bit of a recap on that, I've also bought GCSE Biology, and I still had my A2 Biology. So there we go. A couple of the books I bought were actually because they look quite interesting, like this one by Sue Cowley. It actually looked more interesting than all other reference books that the university's told us to read, and very relevant, and she has actually been a teacher in a school, so I think she knows what she's talking about. Some of the other ones I bought were things I didn't know much about. I've got a collection of them here, various different ones, teaching children with various different additional needs, sort of dyspraxia, ADHD, dyslexia, autism, speech and language difficulties, that kind of thing. So various different things that I've not had any experience of yet myself. So they should be quite relevant for the school practice. And then another one that the universities advised us to get, learning to teach science in the secondary school. Obviously that's more specific to the subject, and you can get those in various different subjects, history, geography, that kind of thing. And now to the books I've borrowed from the library. We can borrow up to 15 books at a time, so a few of these ones are quite relevant. I got the Essential Guide to Teaching, which goes with the Essential Guide to Lesson Planning, so that should be quite useful for actual practice in the classroom. Got one here on learning and teaching, achieving the QTS standards, which is the Qualified Teacher Status standards which you need to reach to pass the NQT. So that should be quite useful for me over the year. We're doing some micro teaching this week, which is basically teaching of short sessions to the class, 10 minutes long, sort of what you'd aim to do in an introduction to a lesson, and sort of getting them ready and going, sort of setting them up for the first task. And I borrowed Am I Teaching Well? Sort of, so I can read through that beforehand, try everything I can for the micro teaching, and then sort of review it afterwards to help me improve my style. Got a couple out for the first assignment as well, relating to teaching skills. Thinking for Teaching, teaching thinking skills across the middle years, which is 9 to 14, and then a teacher's guide to thinking skills. So, because I have no idea what thinking skills are at the moment, and I have to write 1,000 words on it. And then I just picked up a couple of other ones that, like I said, looked more interesting. There's Sue Cowley's A to Z of Teaching, another one that's by Sue Cowley there. How to be a successful secondary teacher. Seems to be a lot of Sues that like books. Rocket Up Your Class, 101 high impact activities to start, end and break up lessons. So I thought that might be quite useful just to have a sort of repertoire when you go into the school, just in case you need them. Guerrilla Teaching, which I quite like the look of. Another one by Sue Cowley. And last but not least, 99 Classroom Calamities. Now, I like to be very prepared, and I just thought this book might be quite useful in order to help me with that. It is 99 Classroom Calamities and how to avoid them, so I'm optimistic. But yeah, it kind of gives an example of what would you do if there was a wasp in your classroom, how would you deal with that, because obviously it's going to disrupt learning, so you need to deal with it, but yeah, just 99 things that can and will go wrong in your classroom, it says. So those are all the books I've managed to get my hands on at the moment. Obviously a lot of them work in correspondence with the notes that we've been given, and the notes that we've made ourselves in the lectures and lessons. So that's what I've done mostly this week, and for the next few weeks I think I'll be reading quite a bit. So yeah, that's the end of week 1. We'll see how it goes next week. Bye!